I never left my small town, the heart of rural America. Well, now look at you. It's been a long time, hasn't it? The sun's just starting to dip behind the old oak line, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, just like it always did. Come on in, pull up a chair. The screen door might creak a little, always has, but that's just the sound of home, isn't it? Can you smell that? Probably just the last of the honeysuckle on the breeze. Or maybe if you close your eyes, you can almost catch a whiff of Grandma's fresh-baked cornbread, still warm from the oven. The dust on that gravel road out front, the one you just drove in on, it's the same dust that settled on my bare feet when I was just a boy, chasing fireflies as the twilight deepened. It's funny, isn't it, how some things just stay with you, etched into the very fabric of your soul. If this kind of story, this feeling of coming back to where your roots run deep, brings back something in your heart, go ahead and subscribe to PorchTales, give it a like, and share it with someone who still remembers how it used to be. Because these aren't just stories, they're echoes of a life lived, lessons learned, and love that never fades.
This old shirt? Oh, it's got stories to tell. But if the spirit of this America, honest work, tight-knit community, speaks to you, well, a fresh piece of it might be closer than you think. It's the truth we live by.
I remember one summer, must have been when I was about 10, the kind of summer where the days stretched out like taffy, sticky and sweet. My world then was bounded by the creek down past Miller's pasture and the old water tower on the edge of town. Every morning, the first sound wasn't the alarm clock, but the distant rumble of Mr. Abernathy's tractor, already out in his fields before the dew had even thought about lifting. Mr. Abernathy, he was the kind of man whose hands were gnarled like old oak roots, strong from a lifetime of working the land, but his voice, when he spoke, was as soft as a whisper of wind through the tall corn. He'd always have a word of wisdom, usually delivered with a slow nod and a twinkle in his eye, while he leaned against his fence post, watching the world go by. He taught me how to tell if a storm was coming just by the way the leaves on the trees turned their undersides up, and how to mend a fence so it'd hold against anything but a charging bull. He was more than a neighbor. He was a living history book, a testament to the quiet strength of the land. He'd tell me stories of his own youth, of horse-drawn plows and community barn raisings, of a time when neighbors truly relied on each other for survival, not just for a cup of sugar. His eyes, though clouded with age, would light up when he spoke of the land, of the miracle of a seed pushing through the soil, of the satisfaction of a good harvest. He taught me that patience wasn't just a virtue, but a necessity, especially when dealing with Mother Nature. He'd say, you can't rush a crop, son, and you can't rush wisdom. Both take time and a whole lot of faith. He had a way of making the simplest things profound, like the way he'd explain how the earth breathed, or how the stars were just pinpricks in a blanket that covered us all. He was a quiet man, but his presence was as solid and comforting as the ancient oak that stood sentinel at the edge of his property. I remember him once, sitting on his porch swing, whittling a piece of wood into a perfect bird, telling me that true craftsmanship wasn't about speed, but about respect for the material and the patience to let the form reveal itself. That lesson about letting things unfold naturally has stayed with me through all the years. He'd often point to the way the creek flowed, always moving, always finding its path, yet never rushing beyond its banks, a perfect metaphor for a life well lived. He had a particular way of smelling the air, a deep inhale that seemed to draw in the very essence of the coming weather, and he was rarely wrong. He taught me to listen to the land, not just with my ears, but with my whole being, to feel its subtle shifts and whispers. And then there was Martha, down at the Sunrise Diner. Martha knew everyone, not just their names, but their stories, their worries, their favorite pie. She'd have my dad's coffee poured before he even sat down, and she always knew if I needed an extra scoop of ice cream on my apple pie, even if I didn't say a word. Her laugh was like a warm bell ringing through the diner, and her hugs, when she gave them, felt like coming home after a long journey. The diner wasn't just a place to eat. It was the town's heartbeat, where deals were struck, gossip was exchanged, and friendships were forged over endless cups of coffee. I remember one time, a particularly harsh winter, the pipes burst at the old church, and Martha, without a second thought, opened the diner for Christmas dinner, cooking for half the town. That's the kind of spirit that lived in every corner of this place, a spirit of looking out for one another, of community that ran deeper than blood. She had a way of making everyone feel seen, heard, and valued. She'd remember your birthday, ask about your ailing aunt, or congratulate you on a good report card. Her hands, though busy with plates and coffee cups, always seemed to find time for a comforting pat on the shoulder or a gentle squeeze of the arm. The aroma of fresh brewed coffee and sizzling bacon was her perfume, and the clatter of dishes and friendly chatter was her symphony. The diner was a sanctuary, A place where you could always find a warm meal, a listening ear, and a dose of genuine human connection. I recall one morning, I was feeling particularly down about something silly, probably a bad grade or a scolding from my folks. And Martha just slid a slice of her famous chocolate cream pie in front of me. No words, just a knowing smile. That pie and that smile spoke volumes, reminding me that even the smallest gestures of kindness can mend a broken spirit. She was the town's unofficial therapist, confidant, and cheer squad, all rolled into one apron-wearing, coffee-slinging angel. Her wisdom wasn't from books, but from a lifetime of observing human nature, of seeing people at their best and their worst, and still choosing to believe in the good. She taught me that a kind word and a warm meal could solve more problems than any argument. Her presence was a constant, a comforting anchor in the ever-changing currents of life, and the diner, under her watchful eye, was truly the heart of our little world. My own childhood was a blur of scraped knees and sun-kissed hair, spent mostly outdoors. My best friend, Billy, and I, we were inseparable. We'd spend entire afternoons down at the creek, skipping rocks until our arms ached, trying to see whose stone could bounce the most times across the glassy surface. Or we'd fish, not really caring if we caught anything, just enjoying the quiet hum of the cicadas and the slow drift of the clouds overhead. We built forts in the woods that were more imagination than wood, and we'd tell ghost stories around bonfires that smelled of burning leaves and marshmallows. Those were the days when the biggest worry was whether we'd make it home before the streetlights came on, or if Mom would find out we'd snuck an extra cookie. The innocence of it all, the sheer joy of discovery in every rustle of leaves, every splash in the water, it was a precious gift. We'd race our bikes down dusty paths, the wind whipping through our hair, feeling like we could conquer the world. We'd spend hours exploring the abandoned farmhouse on the edge of town, convinced it held secrets and treasures, our imaginations painting vivid pictures of its past inhabitants. Every fallen log was a pirate ship, every patch of tall grass a jungle, every summer day an endless adventure waiting to unfold. We learned about loyalty, about shared secrets, and about the unspoken language of true friendship. One time, we even tried to build a raft to float down the creek, convinced we'd reach the ocean. It barely made it 10 feet before capsizing, soaking us to the bone, but the laughter that followed, echoing through the trees, was worth every bit of the effort. Those moments, those shared foolish endeavors, forged a bond that time and distance could never truly break. We were explorers, inventors, dreamers, all within the confines of our small, familiar world. We'd spend hours just lying in the tall grass, watching the clouds drift by, inventing stories about the shapes they formed: dragons, castles, giant rabbits. It was a time when imagination was as real as the dirt beneath our feet, and the possibilities were as endless as the summer sky. The taste of wild blackberries, stained purple on our fingers and lips, the thrill of finding a perfect skipping stone, the cool relief of the creek water on a scorching afternoon. These are the sensations that still transport me back to those golden days. Summer storms here, they're not just rain, they're an event. You'd see the sky turn that bruised purple, feel the air get heavy and still, and then the wind would whip up, rattling the windows and bending the trees. And then the rain would come, not a gentle shower, but a deluge, washing the world clean. I remember one storm particularly fierce when the power went out. We gathered in the living room, lit by the flickering glow of candles, and my dad would tell us stories, old family tales, his voice a comforting rumble against the drumming rain on the roof. Those moments, huddled together, felt like the safest place in the world, a reminder that even in the face of nature's raw power, family was an unshakable anchor. The air after a summer storm, it has a smell all its own, clean, fresh, electric, like the earth itself has taken a deep, cleansing breath. The world would sparkle, every leaf glistening, every puddle reflecting the clearing sky. And then, sometimes, if you were lucky, a rainbow would arch across the heavens, a vibrant promise after the fury, a reminder of beauty and hope. It was in those moments, watching the storm rage and then subside, that I learned about the cycles of life, about destruction and renewal, about the quiet strength of enduring. I recall one night, the lightning was so bright it lit up the entire valley, turning night into day for a split second, followed by a thunderclap that shook the very foundations of the house. My little sister, terrified, buried her face in my mother's lap, but my dad just smiled, a calm, reassuring presence. He told us that the storm was just the earth clearing its throat, making way for new growth. And somehow, his words made the terrifying beautiful, transforming fear into wonder. The sound of the rain on the tin roof, a rhythmic lullaby, was a sound I still associate with comfort and security, a reminder of those nights when the world outside roared, hard, but inside we were safe and warm, bound by the simple presence of each other. The smell of ozone in the air, the sudden chill that preceded the downpour, the way the birds would fall silent just before the first drops hit. These were all part of the grand drama of a summer storm, a drama that played out year after year, teaching us about the raw, untamed power of the world. Our lives were marked by the seasons, by the planting and the harvest. The tractors, those behemoths of steel and muscle, were like living things, shaping the land, pulling the bounty from the earth. I remember riding on my grandpa's lap in his old Ford tractor, the smell of diesel and rich earth filling my nostrils, watching the rows of corn stretch out endlessly. He taught me that the land gives back what you put into it, not just in crops, but in character. He said, "Son, the earth don't lie. You treat her right, she'll treat you right." Same goes for people. That simple truth, spoken by a man whose hands knew the soil intimately, has guided me more than any textbook ever could. The spring brought the promise of new life, the fields turning from barren brown to vibrant green, the air alive with the buzz of bees and the chirping of birds. Summer was the time of growth, of long, hot days, and the sweet scent of ripening crops. Fall was the harvest, a time of hard work and immense satisfaction, the barns overflowing with the fruits of our labor. And winter, though harsh, was a time for rest, for reflection, for gathering close by the fire, for mending tools and planning for the next year. Each season had its own lessons, its own beauty, its own rhythm that we live by. I remember the smell of freshly cut hay in the summer, sweet and intoxicating, and the crisp, clean scent of wood smoke in the fall, a promise of cozy evenings. The land wasn't just dirt. It was a living, breathing entity, a partner in our existence, demanding respect and offering abundance in return. The changing colors of the leaves in autumn, a fiery spectacle of reds, oranges, and golds, were a yearly reminder of nature's artistry, a final burst of glory before the quiet slumber of winter. The deep, rich smell of turned earth in spring, the hum of the irrigation pumps in the dry heat of July, the rustle of corn stalks in the late summer breeze. These were the sensory markers of our lives, grounding us in the cyclical dance of nature. Backyard barbecues were a staple of every summer weekend. The air thick with the smell of grilling burgers and hot dogs. The sound of laughter and classic rock drifting from someone's portable radio. Kids running wild. Fireflies beginning to blink as dusk settled, and the grown-ups sharing stories, their voices growing softer, more reflective, as the stars began to pepper the inky sky. These weren't fancy affairs. They were gatherings of kindred spirits, a testament to the simple joy of shared company and good food. And the 4th of July, that was the highlight of the year. The parade, a glorious, chaotic procession of decorated tractors, fire trucks, and kids on bikes with streamers fluttering from their handlebars. Everyone lined Main Street, waving flags, cheering for their neighbors. And then, as night fell, the fireworks, bursting over the old football field, painting fleeting masterpieces against the dark canvas of the sky. It felt like the whole town was holding its breath, together, in awe of the beauty and the freedom we shared. The annual county fair was another grand event, a kaleidoscope of sights, sounds, and smells. The dizzying whirl of the Ferris wheel, the sugary sweetness of cotton candy, the shouts of the carnival barkers, the proud display of prize-winning livestock and giant pumpkins. It was a place where city folk and country folk mingled, where traditions were upheld, and where the simple pleasures of life were celebrated with gusto. I remember the pie-eating contests, the three-legged races, the nervous excitement of waiting for the results of the blue ribbon canning competition. These events weren't just entertainment. They were rituals binding us together, reinforcing the shared identity of our small community. The sense of anticipation leading up to the fair, the smell of popcorn and fried dough, the thrill of the rides, all contributed to a feeling of pure, unadulterated joy that lasted for weeks. The sound of the calliope from the carousel, the distant clang of the hammer striking the bell at the strongman game, the excited squeals of children on the teacups. These were the sounds of summer, of freedom, of a community coming alive. Horses, too, were a part of the landscape, not just on the farms, but in the spirit of the place. I remember a mare, a beautiful palomino named Goldie, that belonged to the Johnsons down the road. She had a gentle spirit, and Mr. Johnson would sometimes let me feed her an apple. There was a quiet dignity about her, a strength that reminded me of the land itself. One time, I saw her galloping across a field after a summer rain, her mane and tail flying, the sun catching the water droplets on her coat, and she looked like pure freedom, a wild, untamed beauty. It was a moment that etched itself into my memory, a symbol of the untamed spirit that still lingered in these parts, even amidst the cultivated fields. The horses, with their powerful muscles and knowing eyes, seemed to embody the very essence of the rural landscape, strong, graceful, and deeply connected to the earth. They were partners in labor, companions in solitude, and silent witnesses to the changing seasons. I remember the smell of the stables, a mix of hay, leather, and horse, a scent that always felt comforting and familiar. There was a quiet understanding between man and horse, a partnership built on trust and mutual respect, a bond that transcended words. I learned from them the importance of patience and a gentle hand. That force rarely achieves what understanding can. The rhythmic thud of hooves on soft earth, the gentle nicker of a mare to her foal, the powerful surge of a gallop across an open field. These were the sounds and sights that spoke of a primal connection, a harmony between creature and land that was both ancient and ever-present. Life here wasn't without its heartbreaks, though. There were lean years when the crops didn't come in as expected or when a beloved elder passed on. I remember the day Mr. Abernathy died. The whole town felt a little quieter, a little emptier. His funeral was packed, standing room only, and I saw men, strong men, wipe tears from their eyes. It was the first time I truly understood that grief isn't just a personal burden. It's a communal one, shared by everyone who loved and respected the person. But even in sorrow, there was a profound sense of unity. Neighbors brought food, offered comfort, and helped each other through the quiet ache of loss. It was in those moments of shared vulnerability that the true strength of our community shone brightest. We learned that while life can be hard, you don't have to face it alone. There were also the times when a young person, full of dreams, would leave for the city, and a part of the town's future would go with them. It was a bittersweet farewell, a mix of pride for their ambition, and a quiet sadness for the space they left behind. But even then, the ties remained, stretched but never broken, a testament to the enduring bonds forged in this small town. I remember the year the old schoolhouse closed, consolidated with a bigger district. It felt like losing a limb, a piece of our history, a place where generations had learned and grown. But even then, the community rallied, turning it into a new town hall and community center, proving that even in loss, there was always a way to find new purpose, to adapt and endure. The empty swing set in the schoolyard, once filled with the joyful shouts of children, became a quiet monument to what was, but also a symbol of resilience, waiting for new laughter to fill the air. The economic downturns that hit rural areas hard, the struggles of farmers to make ends meet, the constant battle against the elements. These are the challenges that forge our character, teaching us about perseverance and the importance of holding on to hope, even when the odds seemed stacked against us. And then there was the growth, the slow, steady unfolding of who I was meant to be. It wasn't a sudden revelation, but a gradual understanding, like watching a sapling grow into a mighty tree. I learned about responsibility from tending my small garden patch, about patience from waiting for the first ripe tomato, and about resilience from watching the fields recover after a harsh winter. I learned about the deep, abiding love that binds a family, not just through words, but through countless small acts of kindness, quiet sacrifices, and unwavering support. My parents, they didn't preach, they lived. They showed me what it meant to work hard, to be honest, to treat others with respect, and to find joy in the simple things. Their love wasn't a grand, dramatic gesture, but a steady, comforting presence, like the warmth of the sun on your face after a long, cold spell. It was the kind of love that built a home, not just a house, and filled it with laughter and understanding. I remember my mother, her hands always busy, whether kneading dough for bread or mending a torn shirt, humming old hymns under her breath. Her quiet strength was the bedrock of our family, her unwavering faith a guiding light. And my father, a man of few words but deep convictions, who taught me the value of a handshake, the importance of keeping your word, and the satisfaction of a job well done. He taught me how to fix anything with a bit of ingenuity and a few tools. But more importantly, he taught me how to fix problems with patience and understanding. He showed me how to bait a hook, how to change a tire, how to read the weather signs in the sky. But the most important lessons he taught were about integrity and perseverance. He taught me that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in the richness of your relationships and the peace in your heart. The countless hours spent helping my dad in the barn, learning the rhythm of manual labor, the satisfaction of seeing a task through to completion. These experiences shaped my hands and my spirit, instilling in me a deep appreciation for honest work and the dignity it brings. I remember one particular evening sitting on this very porch, much like tonight with my grandfather. He was old then, his hair white as cotton, his eyes still sharp and kind. We were watching the fireflies, those tiny blinking stars that dance in the twilight. He didn't say much, just pointed to them, and then to the vast, star-dusted sky above. "Son," he said, his voice raspy with age, "there's a whole universe out there, and a whole universe right here in these fields, in these people. Don't ever forget to look for the magic in both. That simple moment, that quiet wisdom, it resonated deep within me. It taught me to appreciate the grandeur of the cosmos and the profound beauty of the everyday, the sacredness of the ordinary. It taught me that true richness isn't measured in what you own, but in what you cherish, in the connections you make, and in the quiet moments of grace that punctuate a life. He told me stories of his own youth, of courting my grandmother at the town dance, of building this very farmhouse with his own hands, brick by brick, dream by dream. His memories were a tapestry, rich with the threads of generations, connecting me to a past that felt both distant and intimately familiar. He taught me that history wasn't just in books, but in the land, in the old photographs, and in the stories passed down from one porch to another. He'd often say that the land remembers, and if you listen closely, it will tell you its secrets. The way the wind whispers through the corn, the rustle of leaves in the ancient trees, the murmur of the creek. These were the voices of the past, speaking to those who had ears to hear. He had a way of making you feel like you were part of something much larger than yourself, a continuous thread in the fabric of time, connected to all who had come before and all who would follow. As I got older, I saw some friends leave, drawn by the bright lights of the city, by the promise of something more. And I understood. But for me, this place, it held a different kind of pull. It wasn't just the land or the familiar faces. It was the rhythm of life here, the sense of belonging, the quiet understanding that you were part of something bigger than yourself. It was the feeling that every stone, every tree, every weathered barn held a story, a memory, a piece of history. And I realized that the greatest adventures aren't always found on distant shores, but sometimes they're found right here, in the unfolding of a life lived with intention, with heart, and with an open spirit. The city offered excitement, opportunity, a faster pace, but it lacked the deep roots, the sense of interconnectedness that defined life here. I found my purpose not in chasing fleeting trends, but in nurturing the enduring values that had shaped me. I learned that true success wasn't about accumulation, but about contribution, about leaving the world a little better than you found it, just like Mr. Abernathy and my grandfather had done. I remember the ache of saying goodbye to friends who left, the promise to write letters that often went unwritten, but the understanding that our paths, though diverging, were still connected by the shared soil of our youth. The quiet strength of this place, its unwavering presence, became a part of my own identity, a compass guiding me through life's complexities. It taught me that true freedom wasn't about escaping, but about finding your place, about belonging, about being rooted in something real and true. There's a particular kind of quiet that settles over the fields just before dawn, a hush that speaks of anticipation and peace. I've spent countless mornings watching the sun rise, painting the sky with colors that no artist could truly capture, listening to the world slowly awaken. The first chirps of the birds, the distant lowing of cattle, the gentle rustle of the wind through the cornstalks. These are the sounds of home, the symphony of a life lived in harmony with nature. And in the evenings, as the stars begin to prick through the deepening blue, there's a profound sense of connection to something ancient and vast. The Milky Way, a shimmering river of light, stretches across the sky, reminding you of your small place in the grand scheme of things, yet also of the immense wonder that surrounds us. It's in these quiet moments, under the vast, open sky, that I feel most grounded, most grateful, most truly myself. The air here, it's different. It's cleaner, fresher, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth, not exhaust fumes and concrete. It fills your lungs differently, settles in your soul differently. It's the kind of air that clears your head and calms your spirit, inviting you to simply be. The crispness of a fall morning, the warmth of the sun on your skin in summer, the biting chill of a winter wind. These are the sensations that connect you to the raw, unfiltered experience of life, reminding you that you are a part of something much larger than yourself. I remember the annual church picnic held every summer in the shaded grove behind the old white steeple. Potluck dishes piled high on long tables, the air filled with the scent of fried chicken, potato salad, and peach cobbler. Kids playing tag among the trees, teenagers whispering secrets, and the older folks sharing stories and laughter, their voices weaving a comforting hum. It wasn't just a meal, it was a celebration celebration of togetherness, a reaffirmation of the bonds that held us all. The hymns sung in the small church on Sunday mornings, their melodies echoing through the wooden rafters, carried a profound sense of peace and community. Faith here wasn't just a concept. It was a lived experience, woven into the fabric of daily life, offering comfort in sorrow and guidance in uncertainty. It was a quiet, steady presence, like the enduring strength of the ancient oak trees that dotted the landscape. The church bell, ringing out on Sunday mornings, was more than just a call to worship. It was a reminder of the passage of time, of generations gathering, of a shared heritage. The simple act of breaking bread together, sharing stories and laughter, forged bonds stronger than any legal document. The annual Christmas pageant, with all the children dressed as shepherds and angels, their innocent voices filling the small church, was a reminder of the simple joys and enduring traditions that sustained us. And the lessons learned from the land itself, they are countless. The resilience of a sapling pushing through rocky soil, the generosity of a fruitful harvest, the unforgiving nature of a drought, the cleansing power of a good rain. The land teaches humility, patience, and the understanding that some things are simply beyond our control. It teaches you to work hard, to respect the cycles of nature, and to appreciate the simple miracle of growth. It teaches you that every season has its purpose, every challenge its lesson, and every ending its new beginning. The quiet wisdom of the fields, the steadfastness of the mountains in the distance, the endless flow of the creek. These were my teachers, shaping my understanding of the world in ways that no classroom ever could. The land holds memories too, if you know how to look. The faint outlines of old fence lines, the remnants of forgotten homesteads, the way the trees lean in a certain direction, all tell a story of those who came before, of lives lived and dreams pursued on this very soil. It's a living museum, constantly evolving, yet always holding on to its past. The way the soil felt beneath my bare feet, cool and rich, the scent of freshly tilled earth, the sight of a perfect row of young corn stretching to the horizon. These were the sensory experiences that connected me deeply to the land, making me feel like a true part of its story. I recall the first time I truly understood the meaning of sacrifice. It was during a particularly harsh winter, and our old barn caught fire. The whole town turned out, battling the flames in the freezing cold, risking their own safety to save what they could. We lost a lot that night, but what we gained was immeasurable. The profound realization that we were not alone, that our neighbors were our family, and that in times of crisis, the human spirit, fueled by love and solidarity, could overcome anything. The rebuilding process was slow, arduous, but every nail hammered, every beam lifted was a testament to that shared spirit. It taught me that true strength isn't just about individual resilience, but about the collective power of a community united. The smoke-stained air, the exhaustion, the tears, all were part of a crucible that forged an even stronger bond between us, a silent promise to always be there for one another, come what may. It was a stark reminder that while the land could be unforgiving, the people who lived on it were anything but. And then there were the simple, everyday moments that, in retrospect, hold the most profound beauty. The taste of a sun-warmed tomato picked fresh from the vine. The sound of my mother singing softly as she worked in the kitchen. The feeling of my father's calloused hand in mine as we walked the fields at dusk. The smell of freshly mown grass on a summer afternoon. The way the light filtered through the leaves of the old maple tree in our front yard, dappling the ground in shifting patterns. These weren't grand events, but they were the threads that wove the tapestry of my childhood, creating a sense of belonging and peace that I carry with me always. They're the quiet hymns of a life well lived, the subtle brushstrokes in a masterpiece of memory. The sound of the ice cream truck, a distant jingle on a hot summer day, bringing a momentary burst of pure, childish delight. The feel of cool sheets on a sweltering night, the distant croaking of frogs from the pond, the gentle hum of the refrigerator in the quiet house. These small, seemingly insignificant details are the true treasures, the ones that whisper of home and happiness long after the grand narratives fade. The way the light catches the dust motes dancing in a sunbeam through the kitchen window, the comforting weight of a sleeping cat on your lap, the simple pleasure of a glass of cold well water on a hot day. These are the moments that truly define a life, filling it with quiet joy and profound contentment. So here we are, the sun almost gone now, just a sliver of orange on the horizon. The crickets are starting their nightly symphony, and the air is cooling, carrying the scent of damp earth and night-blooming jasmine. It's a peaceful feeling, isn't it? A feeling of being right where you're supposed to be. These stories, these memories, they're not just mine. They're a part of all of us who remember a simpler time, a time when community was a given and kindness was a currency. If these tales have stirred something in your own heart, If they brought back a memory or a feeling of home, then please consider subscribing to PorchTales. Give this video a like and share it with someone who needs a reminder of the enduring beauty of a life lived close to the land, close to the heart. Because these aren't just memories I'm sharing. They're letters we never mailed, whispered on the wind, hoping they find their way back to you, back home. And as the last light fades and the stars begin to emerge, one by one, remember that even in the vastness of the world, there are still places where tea